And here is one more thing I thought sharing maybe you may find useful. Because you're using the energy wheel, and what we found is that when we use the energy wheel to help people identify more hazards, indeed, in alignment with the existing research, it does help to identify more hazards, but there are some caveats to it. And when we actually seen that in practice, we found that many people would use just the keyword from the energy wheel, like motion, like chemical. And that's fine, but we can take it further. The second level of quality with regard to hazard identification can be pointing to more specific objects, like with the cans, we said toxin or dropped objects. But the third level is pointing to contextual risk associated with the situation. So for example, when we put the pallet on the top shelf, the lighting is poor and the driver can push the pallet too far and it could fall. Now what we found was that using the energy wheel did not automatically result in higher level of quality. Yes, you got more hazard categories identified, but not necessarily quality. And so getting to that level of quality where people could contextualize and relate to, hey, hazard, this is the hazard and this is how I can get hurt, required some additional support and coaching. The second area of the integration is behavioral observation. And so here is the starting point that correcting individual behavior is not enough to achieve sustainable improvement in complex systems. We've already explored some of that with the examples that we've got a number of constraints that influence what people do. And so we may need to think differently or update our thinking about accident causation. Within the behavioral tradition, the idea is that unsafe behaviors cause accidents. And based on that assumption, what we do, we identify behaviors, right? There are programs around that. We observe and we correct. And we do it with behavioral safety or behavioral observations programs. However, when we change our way of thinking, which would be more in line with science of safety in complex systems, we would see unsafe behavior as a symptom of things which are difficult to see, like we practiced with the truck offloading, etc. And so with that, our focus would be then on error traps, and even more why error traps were in place, and then learning from normal work would be an angle to take to help to uncover that. Because when it comes to behavior, we can use different lenses to interpret behavior. We can use different schools of thought or different disciplines. You can explain my behavior by using physiology, physics, chemistry, neurology, etc. In the world of organizations, one frame that dominated for a number of decades was the behavioral perspective. And you probably heard about the ABC model as well. And that's fine, and I appreciate that. I'm technically trained in behavioral science as a psychologist, and I appreciate the science behind it. But it is a lens that comes with language and focus. And then we can use other lenses to see if they add additional value to that. And so here is a different lens that we can use to use for explaining the behaviors. And so behaviors are adaptations to operational constraints. Those constraints like time, wrong tools, provide out-of-date procedure, they are there because something else is happening in the organization. And people are facing dilemmas. Should I do this? Should I do that? If I deal with it one way, there will be this consequence. If I deal with that another way, there will be another consequence. And the difference between how the work is imagined and work is done and workers' understanding of the context and why it makes sense is a lens. Now, the opportunity here is that those things tend to be hidden from the leaders when we focus only on correcting behavior. And when we make invisible visible, now we're equipping ourselves as leaders into our ability to address those things and address the misalignments between different resources and constraints in the organization.